Tapu mo ha'a kotoa be whakawhakatapua. Tapu mo ha'a mana langi mama. Tapu mo ha'a mana whenua. Tapu mo ha'a mana moana. Tapu mo ha'a mana akonga. Tapu mo ha'a mana ilo mo poto. Ka ata ki whai hawhakahoha'a. We pay our respects to all sacred lineages. Our respects to the sacred lineages of Rangi and Papa, our respects to the sacred lineages of this land and tangata whenua, our respects to the sacred lineages of great navigators and warriors of Moana Oceania, our respects to the sacred lineages of educators and education in all its senses and all its contexts, our respects to the sacred lineages of our holders of knowledge and skills. And may we humbly ask for permission to share with you today through our Talanoa. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko tēnei tōku pepeha, ko talao tōku maunga, ko vaitukakau tōku moana, ko tāpinga mama tōku waka, ko tonga tōku iwi, ko mahina tōku hapu, ko mahangatea tōku tupuna, no tonga ahau, ko kolokesa wa whāmahina tuai tōku ingoa. My pepeha is traced through the ancestral lineage of my father from about the northern islands of Tonga. My mountain is Talanoa, my moana ocean is Vaitukakau, my waka is Tāpinga Mama, my iwi is Tonga, my hapu is Mahina, my ancestor is Mahangatea, I am of Tongan heritage. My marae, is Vaitukau. Bakatau mai, I am of Tongan heritage and my name is Kesa and Barb. So and greetings to you all this morning. You've all come to be here, so thank you.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi o te wākia koutou katoa, e uri te tūru a o hamo, ko toro mana me Barbara Merciana tūri Makuati-Afitu te oku ingoa, aka me, aka Beyonce. Tēnei au e tu nei, hei hono ngā ki ngā wāra mata, taino ki te nei wā tonu, ki te whakaputa nguri whakatipu, ki te whai au ki te ao marama, no reira tēnā koutou katoa. It's always hard to do it's always hard to stand here and acknowledge those that you come from because you want to give them that space and the honouring that they deserve. But my really speaks about giving all of ourselves in this space, acknowledging all of those that have come before us, acknowledging all of you and those that stay with you while we all prepare for a better tomorrow. So thank you for giving us the opportunity and yes, for getting up early. I was trying to get my family up early and nobody came. But yes, thank you for giving us the opportunity to come as Langi Mama. Langi Mama is an organisation of just Kesa and I that we kind of set up because we could see that there was this huge gap in ensuring that our communities were being taken care of. So our mahi is very much around truly putting our communities at the centre of everything that we do. We broker, we champion, but we also challenge the spaces that they are going into to ensure that they are safer spaces. And it's not just preparing our communities, but it's also preparing the other side on what it looks like to tell this farm, to create a safer space for all of this to happen so that we all get better outcomes. But that there's better understanding in everything that we do. So, for a Talanoa, which is what today is about, it's very much about talking about the things that you are too scared to ask in different spaces, but also about the real things that you want to ask. Kesa's here, she's going to ask all the questions. So yeah, thank you.
And I think one of the definitions of Talanoa is to talk critically yet harmoniously. You know, so openly and honestly with how you feel, but also, you know, to sort of reach a better sort of objective, a better sort of a place that's good for the benefit of the whole. You know, so we love to talk critically. Openly. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, okay.
So do you want us to start talking about some of the practices that you... Let's open the floor. What would you like us to talk about? Or what would you like to better understand about the money that we do? Or ask any question.
Or we can start. We had a plan B. I think, should we just start with... Well, we had sort of done a talk recently where we had a conversation with someone, and I think what we did, we thought, okay, just in case the conversations doesn't start, we did, because there's a fee, there's a little blurb on your website about inclusive, and I think we just had looked at the blurb and took sort of some of the broke them into little key areas. But I think one of the things that we can start off with was that we don't know who Talanoa is. Is that how you pronounce the name? It says at the end of the blurb. Did you all read the blurb on the website? Should I read it?
Refresh our memory.
Just because inclusive is such a huge topic, and where do you start? And we are not short and succinct, you know, and I think we have a short time. But let me just read what is on this. That was on the website. So the theme is inclusive, and it goes, when different people come into our lives, they bring gifts. We can blend the best of our wisdom with the best of theirs. We can teach and learn from each other to produce closer circles that foster community and commit to diversity. People who include with intention raise their hand to do the work of embracing what is unfamiliar. Inclusion is an attitude to consciously be open to ideas that come from outside of our settled ways of thinking or feeling. It's about making a decision that comes from a place of love, of caring for others. When you place inclusivity at the center of how you live, it has great power to heal, elevate new voices, and change the narrative of who belongs. As diversity advocate, Talanoa, and I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, once said, quote, diversity is being invited to the party, inclusion is being asked to dance. And we were like, whoa, that speaks to what we do. But we also always ask people to dance with us because we enjoy dancing. So we're like, yes, this speaks to what we do. But has anyone got any questions like around the theme? You could direct us.
So Barb mentioned a little bit of what you do. You mentioned challenging the spaces that people are going into. It's very broad and vague in a way. I'm sure you do quite a few things. Could you perhaps give us an example of a thing that you've done with your organisation to help us better understand what it's that you're about?
Okay. I guess we met working at the museum, Tamaki Paihira, Auckland Memorial Museum, and yeah. And the project is just so much, but I guess one of the key things that we do, and one of the things that we kind of met and really connected through sort of just having our community at the heart that drove what we were doing within that institution, but also in what we've done today. And it really is just, when you have your community at heart, you really see things in a different lens, you know, depending on what community you're working with. And it really highlights the fact that certain institutions and organisations operate within this framework, a very Western framework, which when you're looking at diversity, that needs to be dismantled, you know, in order to understand the different lens and perspectives that each community comes with. We work predominantly in the area of Wairamwana Oceania, so that's Pacific communities. And there's a general sort of reference to these communities as Pacific, and what is the Pacific perspective? There is no a Pacific perspective, a Moana perspective, Oceania perspective. There's a Tongan perspective. As a Tongan, strongly grounded Tongan, there's a Tongan perspective. There's a Samoan perspective, and everything's different. So how do we sort of challenge these institutions that if you are open about diversity and also genuinely want to be inclusive, then you need to really address that first and foremost, because you can do all these things and say that that's what you want to do. But if that framework if you're operating within that structure, you won't make any changes, because it already has imposed its everything into your lens, and it dictates that. So therefore you're trying to be diverse, but you got to fit into this box. You're a circle, but you got to fit into the square. So I think it's that's an example, but it's still general. But you got
the project that we were working at the museum was a project that was working with 13 One Oceania communities. So I was a community engagement lead, so my role was very much to go in, and I remember the first couple of weeks was being asked to do a stakeholder engagement plan. But you do understand that you're working with 13 different communities, so these 13 different plans that have to be created for each of these communities. But also, like lovingly, it was a set time that you have to engage with these 13 communities, and that in its own self was unrealistic. As a Samoan, first and foremost, everything that I do is informed by who I come from. So building these relationships, to me, was building whānau connections, and they would be forevermore. But I work in an organisation. But the way I build that is very much, for me, forevermore. Even now, coming out of the museum, still getting calls from a lot of the mamas saying, I go, we want to do this. And I go, okay, then. I go, Kesa, what are we going to do? So, it's very much around how do you build strong and true and genuine foundations and relationships that once you're out of that space will be safe, but also will pass you type thing. And that was one of the hard things, I think, for me doing the community kaupapa, was because I could see so many opportunities, I could see so many other things that could come out of this, but you were restrained by this budget, by this timeline, and the timeline isn't mine. So then I think that was one of the reasons why we kind of came out of the space and created Lani Mama, because we could see there were so many other platforms that we could provide opportunities for our communities. But then lovingly realising that the same kind of issues are out there, especially with the organisations on the other side, and you don't know what you don't know. So I love, and I can truly say there's such a shift at the moment. I love how a lot of the organisations are now asking, well, you tell us what we need to know. How do we greet them? How do we bring them into the space? How do we ensure that it's a safer space for them so that we can all get the better outcomes?
Recently we watched a movie short film about women from Pacific Islands coming to New Zealand. So I have a question whether the challenges and obstacles for these young women coming to search job or coming to the university at New Zealand are different than they were 10 or 20 years ago, and what would you suggest or recommend young women, how you can empower or support them, because they can face even double or triple discrimination, and they could feel exclusive environment here in New Zealand.
I saw that movie as well. I think, the key thing is at the heart of what we're doing is equipping people, organisations, and just generally the community on what diversity really means, and what inclusion really means. So, you're talking about young people, and if it's young people coming from the homelands, is And if they're, you know, looking for opportunities, but if those opportunities and people who are providing those opportunities do not have an understanding of where they've come from, how they've, you know, like the cultural background, the, you know, the nuances of being a Samoan. If you're a young Samoan woman coming from Samoa, what does that mean? You know, who are you from? Where are you from? And then sort of having that conversation, rather than, you know, they've already got a set idea, and if you don't fit this idea, then there's no place for you here. So there's that barrier immediately, and I think I mean that's what we're seeing, with maybe because, you know, what we've come to realize is, we all have different knowledges and understanding, and it's applied, you know, and we carry it with who we are and what we do, and it is really a courageous thing for you to acknowledge that you only know this much, and this person coming has a different set of knowledge and understanding, and how can you meet them halfway? But if you don't, you are not open-minded to see things from their perspective and then see where you can, you know, meet halfway, then nothing will change. And I think, so it's a simple thing, but a lot of people and organizations find it hard to do, you know. And I think one key example is we've got communities which, you know, this particular project, which is, you know, that Barbara was talking about, it was an amazing project, an initiative, and it's actually groundbreaking in sort of the area of museology that the Auckland Museum started, because a big part of that project was engaging the community. So they were relying on the knowledge and expertise of their community to come and share that about the collections that they hold. But the big gap was they didn't quite value that knowledge and expertise that our community was coming in, you know. So there was this unequal dealing and relationship and with our community and with other consultancies, you know. And I think this is one sort of real example where you're happy to pay, you know, a particular consultancy to come and give you expert advice on conceptualizing a space, but because they're community, we'll just give you a koha, their offer. We'll just put your name. You should feel privileged that this, as an organization, we are bringing you on board. It's like, no, you know, and that's the thing, is because they don't understand the value and the knowledge that they're bringing, which a lot of them have been passed down through generations, and you don't get in books, then that conversation is going to be unequal and you're not valuing that knowledge. And when it comes, there's that risk of how would that organization then protect that knowledge and understand that knowledge that they've been gifted. And I think that's sort of what we've seen, where they were brought on board to sort of provide information about certain things, and then because of the relationship, and they've been hosted really well by the team and those that were there, they gave their all. And then, you know, we working in institutions, and those, you know, I guess with us, where we really understood what they gave, we're then freaking out going, OMG, how are we going to protect this, you know? Because this is knowledge that they've given, because you know, you're like a grandpa who's come, and you're coming to my house and you're just gifting it all. And if we were removed, and we've gone out, who's looking after that knowledge in that valley, you know? What are the processes in place that's going to protect that and value that? And when they don't understand that from the very beginning, because they didn't value them enough to realize that they are experts, subject experts, from a community, from Rānui or from Otara, but you haven't valued it, therefore you're not going to value this, and you're not going to be the best kaitiaki of it in that valley, you know? So I think it's, just do,
And I know that there is no Pacific community, there are various communities, but in general, these small islands, people are very religious. And after the Christchurch shootings, was there some kind of request for your organization to talk about terrorism, Islam, how to face fear or death of close people, like how to deal with these issues?
There's been a lot of conversation around it, and I think it's, I think it's the saddest, I think it's such a sad time that people are going into the most sacred, into prayer spaces, into churches, and these terrible things are happening. And so it's very much around just having those conversations so that people do better understand. I think there's all this confusion and all this kind of praying around, what these religious orders are and all of this. But man, it's, I think my mother is just down the road at St. Joseph's on Great North Road at the moment. That's what she put on account, but she wouldn't have come anyway. But it's like and the parish priest, the Victoria cousin of mine, and even he was saying that he's the next day, this could happen to any of us, and it's because of that lack of understanding that people don't understand, what faith is, and so we have to be better at loving each other, at understanding each other, at being, at being empathetic, at being, just more open, and I just think it's such a sad time that the world has gone to that space. You look at Sri Lanka, and that was just terrible, and just before Easter, and Easter for fallen Catholics like myself is very much around, around that renewal, and so there's been a lot of conversations.
Yeah. I mean, no one requesting specifically for us as an organisation, but I guess it's the onus is on each and every one of us. How do we operate as peoples on a one-on-one basis and organize, and what we do as work, but just within our families. And I think, with what we're doing, that's all we can do, and that's one of the key things which, in the work that we do, we've been invited to talk. Our organisation happened organically. I don't know if you knew that. We didn't mean to set up this organisation. And it happened because of a Cambodian photographer who we're currently working with and who will be exhibiting at Object Space on 1st of June. That's his opening. But it came out because we met this photographer who is Cambodian, who was documenting, his drive with his arts practice was to document the story and histories of his community during the Khmer Rouge. And his images are stunning, and then you hear the stories, and they're really heart-wrenching and tragic, So that, we are led by our heart, what feels good. We don't have a vision and a mission. We're just led by what feels good. And as a result, there was a need for us to set up because we couldn't do it. One of us couldn't take on that role, and we said we'd share it. So that's how Langi Mama came about. And then we realized, because of the work that we did in the museum and looking at sort of the whole wider grand sector, gallery, library, archives, museums, they are spaces that our communities, our more sharing communities, do not access regularly and don't even want to access, to be honest. But yet, if these organisations hold treasures that, our patriarchy of treasures from our community, then they should know that it's in there. But also, these organisations have an onus on them to also make sure that they provide access. Say, this is what we have. Do you want to access it? If you do, how do you make it as easy of an access to these communities as possible? So I think, what was my whole point? Just that we roll organically, and we roll with the fact that, when you have a community at heart of what you do, it just, things fall in place, and with the whole love and empathy and respect, of others and differences. Because we've never worked with the Cambodian community, but to get an insight and work with them, and to see, understanding, simple things like if they come into the gallery space, what will be the protocols for an opening? And first and foremost, always acknowledging mana whenua, tangata whenua. That's the key thing. We operate on their land, so we need to first and foremost always respect them. So how does that happen? And how do we then do it in a way where it doesn't compromise a Cambodian sort of cultural protocol, you know, as well as a tangata whenua, mana whenua, as well as within the gallery space, you know? So those are the things that I think we can do. It is just, we've just opened and tried to understand, you know, from a Cambodian perspective, and then we are trying to champion them in, you know, in that space, in object space, in terms of this is what they need, and bringing on members of their community to advise, and, you know, and yeah.
So what have been some of your recommendations to these organisations to ensure that that we equal that the contribution of the community is being more valued and seen for what it should be, and that when they bring on these communities to consult, that they're valued that knowledge? Like, what would you say to open that conversation to let them, because they don't know what they don't know as well, so what kind of works to ensure that happens?
Well, recently we were asked to go into a corporate space to talk about how to about just community engagement practices, especially with our One Oceania communities. And lovingly, you know, they were asking us, you know, how do you engage with, you know, with these communities? And looking around the room, the first thing that we had to say was, we've actually got the wealth of your knowledge is right here in this room. So I think it was the first time they'd ever had One Oceania speakers come into the space. And so for them, you know, it was like, oh, so what do we do? And you actually have it all here. They have the knowledge because, you know, because obviously you guys are specialists in your area, but they have the knowledge that we don't have. But they're connected to all these different communities, so you actually start here. And we're happy to have auditors, but you actually start with the expertise and the wealth of knowledge that you have within the space. And then we were talking about how, you know, when we were up at the museum and other spaces, and some of the groups that were set up, especially the One Oceania groups, coming together and just having these conversations. And then it'd be like, okay, we're just going to get a certain tier, you know, manager tier. And it's like, no, you invite everyone, because you have no idea that the cleaner that has been cleaning for the last 20 years is actually a church minister at his church. You know, so it's actually getting to know who's actually part of that whānau that you have at work, and then starting there. Lovingly, we're always looking outside for expertise, you know, whereas actually we just need to understand who's in the space and what knowledge and what expertise and who they're connected to, and start there. So that was one thing. But another space that we've worked in, when it came to sacred knowledge, for example, we were actually schooled by one of the Kiribati mamas, because they were talking about Kiribati magic. And they kept talking about it through some of the sessions that we were having. And then one of the mamas actually stopped the session that we had and said, just for you museum staff, you need to understand, Kiribati magic is for Kiribati people. There's no Kiribati person here at this museum who can speak to Kiribati magic. So therefore it doesn't go into your records, it doesn't go into your labels. You know, and I thought, man, and I go, that's one of the things that I mean, I just loved how she schooled us in that sense, because nobody could have said it any better. And I think because we were in that space and we kept trying to advocate, and our voices were just getting lost in that space.
But I think recommendations, you know, I think for us it's just a conversation. We're not experts. They invite us and we're like, we can only speak from where we stand and what we've done. And you know, and it is things like, you know, we've got Barbara shared, but it's also really it has to be top tier down as well as down up, you know, rather than there was a struggle working on here, and then understanding if we don't get the buy-in and understanding of those that make the decisions, then nothing will change here, and you will burn out here. You will burn out here. So, and I think one of the key things and why we don't like public speaking, we don't like doing this, you know, we like just having conversations, but we do it because it's a space where we can share, you know, the experiences that we've done, but also it's another forum to, you know, not only share with you, but change can happen through conversations, sharing our experience. So we do it, you know, regardless. And we have been invited to various spaces where we know they have not engaged our community. Only at a very superficial level, and talking to those, you know, that they know within mainstream, but not realizing that the richness is in the periphery in our living communities, you know? And for us, it's like, we're trying to be champions in terms of saying, you know, you can't just focus on just these guys here, where everyone knows who they are. These are the ones who are providing this foundation and the maintenance and preserving of our cultures here in Aotearoa. But nothing of this is going to them. And, you know, and they don't care because that's part of who they are and that's part of living communities. But when it's organizations that have funding that are trying to, you know, to support that, and if it's not going to the people that are the ones, you know, who are providing this foundation, then that's not good. So that's what we're trying to do, just to create awareness. Yeah. Actually, you need to know that the magic and amazingness is also here, not just here, you know. And so it's, yeah. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, no, I really like what you said about the whole what defines expertise. So maybe it's just also about kind of relooking at that as well. It's like you don't have to be an expert to hold a wealth of knowledge. So it's that kind of conversation.
Well, I think it's you don't have to be an expert to hold it.
Well, it's just that Western idea of expertise might be different from the cultural expertise that you have through where you've come from and what you know.
We were having an interesting conversation within our organisation early on in the week. We had one of our team members who's Māori, her husband passed away in terms of the tangi, and we were having a discussion about how you create safe spaces to have a conversation around something like a funeral, so you understand what exists within your organisation, and creating those opportunities where you can understand more and be able to ask questions so that you do understand on a greater level. Any suggestions or ideas, even within an organisation, how you can create those opportunities and spaces so you can understand the people you're working alongside and what's important and some of their values.
So it was so working on this project. We actually had the Fijians who were lovingly challenging us around how they had to keep repeating, you know, what this particular tikanga for them was, and they actually suggested that what we should have done was started with a tikanga 101 with all 13 communities, because then, and that would be one of their leaders actually coming into our space and actually talking to us about the do's and don'ts for how to engage with their communities, but especially when they're coming into a space, you know, like up at the museum for this particular project, every single community group that came in, we wanted to do a mihi whakatau. And so then I remember, you know, engaging with our cookies because they were first, and they were just like, well, we, or not the cookies, the Fijians, but they were like, oh, but we don't speak Māori. And it's like lovingly, you know, explaining to them what a mihi whakatau is. But then they were so good because that 101 has been one of the biggest learnings, I think, for us, and one of the biggest lessons is very much, once you're actually engaging, it's okay to actually ask some of the, you know, Cambodian community, for example, for one of their leads to come and speak to us about what it means, you know, for their community coming into a space. And so, you know, even with Huck's exhibition coming up, you know, it was like we're engaging with the different temples because we want to ensure that, you know, their tikanga is right and welcomed and room in that space. And then, you know, and one of them actually saying straight away, and they go, women don't touch monks, even though they were looking at me because I'm very huggy. And it was like, oh, but you know, even just knowing those kind of things. So I think it's very, and there are so many people that you can actually engage with to ask, you know, what is that tikanga? Because, you know, even as a Samoan, you know, depending on you know, what kind of level of matai you have as well, and how you go into the different spaces and who they are. So
And I guess that whole point about starting who in the organisation is Māori, you know, and then, you know, having that conversation with them, and then how if they don't feel, because that's the thing, rather than also you be the person, the token Tongan to do anything, you know, Tongan, but also recognising that that comes with certain expertise, and if that person is in a different role but that expertise, you know, how do you acknowledge that? But also they might then point you to others in their community that can come and provide this knowledge, you know, so it really is key relationships with who you have, start with who you have in the organisation, and then work from there. Because relationships is key, yeah. It can be a positive and a negative. Negative in the sense with us, where they come and they give you their all. When you're like, no, just 4 things, just these 4 things. Because then you're then, you know, having to really protect. You know, how do you protect them, you know? But yeah, but it's being brave to ask the questions, which is sometimes hard in the first step. Yeah.
We had something quite awesome at our organisation at Ockham. After the attack in Christchurch, I had a very sort of like white person response, which was like, here's a link to anything, talk some prayers, if you need anything. And it was actually Sarah and Tane who were like, right, we're going to do a check-in process. And we have about 20 odd people in our office, and from different sort of departments, and to different sorts of people as well. And we sat down in our shared space and had a little card that said things like, I feel, I'm feeling this, I need this, this is what, you know. And it's something very, very simple. And it started off with people talking about how they're feeling. By the time we were rocking out in a circle, people were breaking down and crying and talking about how it's affected them in a way that no one was thought that they'd be connecting with. And then that has actually been a moment in our company where I feel like we all have grown a lot closer, and there's this moment or an opportunity that I feel that we can grow from that. Like there's now this moment of what can we do with this connection, and we all want to be, we all want to understand where other people are coming from and what their perspectives are, whether they're Asian or Muslim or Christian or whatever it is. And that was super simple, really groundbreaking, and totally appreciated by our little whānau. That was really cool.
And I think one of the things with the Fijian community, because we had an existing relationship with them, but when we're within a wider group, with a wider team, and what they shared, it was all, you know, this has been a great experience and thank you for the opportunity. But then we had a side conversation, you know, and because they knew us and trusted us, then they gave us the open and honest, you know, and I think you need to always be aware of that in terms of the context where someone is sharing and they're wanting to get their genuine experience and an honest opinion of their experience, who will they share that with in order to, so they gave us that, we went and just met them, and then they gave us those key sort of, you know, critical sort of pointers, which were important because that has then led to this project, you know, embedding it into their practice and protocols of having a one-on-one with every community they had. But yeah, so being, you know, you obviously with Sarah and Tane were given a safe space to be able to, but being aware that sometimes the situation is no one will, there will be people holding back and won't give their honest opinion, because when that honesty comes out, that's when, you know, things can happen.
It's great too, like I think just being brave enough to do something that's different too. There's an etiquette in an office or an organisation that says you can't have those sort of connections with people that you work with. It's bullshit. It's absolutely, we're spending most of our time together, and I find that people have really value feeling included and feeling heard and feeling listened, and that makes everyone more. I guess everyone feels more appreciated, and then they're which is valuable to the organisation in terms of like efficiency and stuff too. You know, like they'll stay longer, they feel better about working harder, and
I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the slippery slope between consideration and appropriation. As a white person, I often feel like I'm colonising things when I get interested in them, and I wonder how.
It's a good question.
Consideration and appropriation.
I think one of the things at the moment that, or one of the issues that I really had in one space was very much around the sacred knowledge. This knowledge that was, one of the cookie mamas who came into the space. Some of these cookie tama kukana had probably not been touched by a cookie hand for over 100 years. So when we did the mihi whakatau downstairs, as soon as we went upstairs and the doors opened, Mama Mary Ama just stood there in front of the taonga and she said, it's okay, we're here now, you're safe, and even that to me just, just felt so, here we are trying to work out how to do this and how to frame it in this, and the ways that she had gone into that space just made me realise just how, we are all very privileged, and I say this lovingly, having taught in Samoa, home to me, but just how lucky we are and my family are to be in this space. And so that's, and I think of my father's generation and all of his and all of them that had come to the space to create a better today for us, and just how the next generation don't truly understand how lucky they are and what was actually created for them to be in these spaces. But I don't know, it's like, I keep thinking that if you actually have that connection and you actually acknowledge where and who it's come from, then and you do it in a safe way of acknowledgement, then I'm always okay about what should be shared and what can be shared. Yeah.
I can give a couple of examples. There's like an artist who very much inspired by one of our Tongan art forms of which is bark cloth, the final art of bark cloth making. And I guess with your question of consideration appropriation, when they've obviously sort of sought worked, because it's an art form. You all know what tafa is, bark cloth, and with Tongan bark cloth, it's, and with some of the others, it's the essence of it is generally sort of older women. They're the key makers of this art form, but also they work collectively together, and it's a huge process from the planting to the stripping to the beating to the then binding to the, sort of embedding the pattern and then doing all of it. So to have an artist who is not of Tongan heritage collaborate with younger artists who are not the holders of that practice, and then to have these works and all the knowledge that comes with that, then to have this work displayed in a gallery space where it's viewed and appreciated by most, because this is a renowned Aotearoa New Zealand artist, mainstream people, and with just the name of this artist with this other person and not acknowledging their collective, source of knowledge, and sort of it's adding to the breadth and this of this art form. But when you've taken the essence of what that art form is about and you're not making that appropriate acknowledgement, then I think that's appropriation. Consideration is if we really acknowledge that without that knowledge, you wouldn't, have, and then also the whole level of, you have this artwork which is, you have $200,000 price tag on it, but within a cultural context, the same type of work, the most you would pay was about $5-6 grand, or even, that would be the most of it, and then, so all these things in terms of, and then this work will be, acquired by an institution which then stands for this art form. But there's all these things missing, which is really problematic for me. And I'm not, and I know I've been told off by my dad because I use this example all the time. Because you just got to lay it off, but I don't have anything against this artist. My thing is, because everyone within mainstream are not aware, do not understand. Do you know that there are collectives who are making this here in Aotearoa? Do you know that these collectives have adapted and this art form specifically to here, where they're experimenting with new materials and they're creating these new works, but they're not even, when they're not even on the radar and they're not even considered to go into the significant collection to be represented, then that's a problem. So our thing is how do we then make sure that these institutions and these mainstream spaces know where these artists are, so therefore they get a level, there's a level, playing field. But also, for me, the positive out of it, yes, there's awareness within, these spaces of this art form, and yes, that's the benchmark now we're going to go for. So if this Tongan collective comes and wants to sell it to this organisation, we're going to start with $200,000, So those are things you think about, but it's all those things, and I think, and you had an artist, because we work collectively with artists who was wanting to, look at other indigenous art forms, but in a way where they were just casually going into it and going, oh yeah, we want to do this, but we want to look at what the Native Americans are doing, what all the Hawaiians are doing, what all these other indigenous communities are doing, and then incorporate it into our work. I'm like, okay, I don't want to because they come because they trust you, but then you just give advice. It's like, there's a process, just in terms of what we've done is, find it problematic for others going and just thinking they can just draw on that, but how have you connected? Are there artists from that community that are doing a similar thing? Could it be a collaboration? And what are the protocols? Even going and seeing, because I know that with Māori, they do some of those things, and they were going to go to, a museum and have a look at certain things. It's like, maybe, do you realise that some of those taonga in the museums are linked to certain iwi, and there's processes around that, and in terms of, yes, go and see, but there's, I think the onus is on you, because you can, it's a public, space where you can go and access it, you just request it, but in terms of really this inclusive, theme of inclusion and diversity is, what's the understanding and protocols around that? Because when you have that conversation, it just makes your work stronger and more robust and more meaningful, because you've had this conversation and you've had this understanding of what you want to take for your own practice. Does that answer your question?
Well guys, I'm really conscious that it's about 9 o'clock, so I have to get to work. I just want to mahi to you guys hard out. So thank you so much. And thank you to you guys as well for being in a different space. And for those of you who partook in the conversation, I really hope that everyone takes something away from this. But Barb, Kesa, I love you both very much. And thank you for your contribution, not just today, but everything you've talked about and your contribution to Tamaki Makaurau and to Aotearoa and just new knowledges and understandings. So thank you so much. And I just want to, if anyone, an opportunity for anyone to say thank you for you guys to finish it off.
Well, I would just like to say thank you very much. I'm Erwin. And yeah, for me, it's just about what you were saying before, coming from places of aroha, about doing this stuff, and we're all responsible to do something and be positive about our own work environments and how can we make changes there. So instead of sort of sitting back and thinking about it, just to verbalise it and give an opportunities that it doesn't have to have a traumatic or tragic incident to create good connection and inclusivity, and it's being authentic, and that's for me really important. And that thing about being non-judgmental, and that's a way of opening doors and opening discussions, and I think that's at the heart of being inclusive. So thank you.
I'd also just like to say thank you on the, how you used to talk about the appropriation and consideration, and how a lot of times in today's world, like, it comes at the good of heart someone to include different cultures into their artwork, but a lot of the time it's just like looking into the heritage and where it all comes from, and the price tag I think is a really important thing to consider, because I think when certain people do certain work, there's a high price tag, even though it's been done for centuries and it's not new, and I guess different communities don't put as high a price tag on something that's not new to them, and it's also beautiful to them, but they just don't see it as needing that price tag. So yeah. Any other thanks for our amazing speaker?
Thanks guys, I just want to, thanks from me and from all the volunteers and the whole Creative Mornings family and whānau. I just sharing this knowledge with everyone has been, very much appreciated, and yeah, just thank you.
For those who are too shy, please feel free to contact us. We're more than happy to have conversations and coffees. Our other office is at Lake Cafe. So you're more than welcome. You see us here most Mondays, Tuesdays.
One thing I was going to say is Googling Like Mama. I think these guys need a volunteer to help them with their website. So if any of you guys want to contribute to this kaupapa and you're a web designer or know someone who could, I think it would be amazing to have these publications online and to be able to have a place where we can go and continue these conversations. So if you do want to volunteer time, that would be awesome. You come and see me, you can meet Tane, or talk to these guys.
Cool.
I'd be super keen.
Yeah.
I would be too.
Even though you said that you don't have vision and mission, I think you are doing it's very needed here.
We need to finish with Te Aroha. So we'll stand up and finish. Thank you.